Upstairs, Hannah. Come on. Gonna go have breakfast.
Lucky Oceans now performs several musical styles. However, he made his mark in country music. He lives in Fremantle with his wife Christine and their 3 children.
I met Christine in Nashville. She was photographing a country singer named Stoney Edwards, who was on the same label as I was on. It was a big convention in Nashville where she was living at the time. And I met her at a party there. And we corresponded, you know, we really hit it off and wrote letters. She went back to Australia, and we kept writing. And then she eventually moved back to visit me in Texas. When she came to Texas, and we got married, and we had our first child, and I took time off from the road, which I'd been doing for 10 years, virtually non-stop, never having more than a week at home for 10 years. I took 7 weeks off to have our first child, Leela, and I realized that it was great not going on the road. So we came over to have a look at Perth, where Christine's from, and just loved it. I just loved it. I said, this is great, this is different, this is easy. So we decided to move over here.
I don't think I intended to move back here. I had never thought of it until Leela was born, and then it just seemed the most obvious thing to do.
What's this?
I just felt this was the best environment to have a family.
Is it a Jakey cake?
No.
My parents just loved music so much. You know, my father would put on a record every morning. He'd sort of have a theme going for a month. He'd put on a record and he'd dance around the house, you know, go, oh, it's beautiful. And so I got the idea that music is beautiful, music is soulful, music is an expression. And I just really wanted to do that, you know, having been exposed to a lot of kind of music through my parents and having them totally open to my playing. It just helped. I've got two sisters who are also musicians, so somehow that fostered musical ability. While I was in college, a friend of mine said, my father's got a place up in West Virginia, which was about a 2-hour drive from where my college was. He said, you can stay there. So we were starting this band up. I said, well, we could live at this guy Larry's father's place. So we just drove up there and set up. There was a log cabin up in the woods, and we got a generator happening for to run the electric instruments. And we basically squatted up there. In West Virginia, we started playing a few little jobs around the bars, and the locals, there's like a hillbilly town. It was the equivalent of Tasmania, maybe, in folklore. Coal mining town, but up in the hills and fairly isolated. So the people thought it was great. The hippies, they used to call us. The hippies have got a country band, and so they'd all come out to this place called the Sportsman's Club every Saturday night and come and see us play. The major break was the first recording contract, because it all sort of rolls from there. We got invited out to California by a popular band at the time called Commander Cody and the Lost Planet Airmen. We lived in their basement and played around the San Francisco area. And this fellow named Dan Burgoyes from the record company came up, listened to us, you know, got a record contract. One day there was a check for $15,000, and our singer spilled beer on it at the gig. And then I woke up the next morning, the check had been cashed, and there was pickled corns in the refrigerator and all sorts of little treats. But once you get that first record contract, that's sort of the breakthrough, you know, and we moved on to other labels from then, but it was the basis. There is a difference between recording in the studio and performing live. When you're live at the gig, it can have a fantastic feeling and vibe, and you just think, oh, let's listen to that if you've recorded it. You have to listen back to it, and it's too fast, and it's frantic, and it's out of tune, and you've got mistakes all over it, but it has the, at the time, it just feels so good. Whereas in the studio, you get very analytical. Everything has to be perfect and create the illusion of a good time and a good feel. It's so mental that it's very draining. You've got to just listen to this take over and over again and think, is this good enough? Is it well enough in tune? Am I going to use this piece of the solo on this track and splice it in with this other piece? It's so much thinking that's what producers are really for, is you get someone in and they go, yeah, that's right. Or they go, oh, tune up. It's a wonderful thing working with a good producer because you just play and you leave the thinking to him. What I find different about Australia to America is it's, especially on the West Coast, it's much more low-key here. People don't have as much a sense of self-importance as they do in America, which is, you know, the self-deprecating humor that's so wonderful about Australia. It's just not as full on, you know. People are really into their holidays here. They like a relaxed lifestyle. It's more suited to families. I noticed that no one could keep a family together who was in the music business in America, but it's great for kids. Well, I'd particularly like to achieve a better standing for my band Dude Ranch. Get us recording and be writing more for them. Of course, I'd like to play all my instruments better and sing better and write better, and that's the ongoing thing that keeps you going.
Available space. Your heart's now got available space. I'm out of the race. For your heart's available space. Available space. Your heart's now got available space. I don't have to vacate. And you have someone else in my place. Give me the keys to your heart. Available space. Your heart's now got available space.